Alrighty. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's July 16th, 2022 revised order, extending remote participation by all members in a meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Great Barrington Housing Subcommittee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information in the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Pursuant to MGL Chapter 7C, 30A, Section 20F, after notifying the chair of the public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of the open session of a meeting of a public body or may transmit the meeting through any medium. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of such recordings. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission from the chair. The listing of agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Now, all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. So the town of Great Barrington is recording this, and members of the public may wish to do so. I see Eileen's there. And let me just check to see, hold on a sec. Anyone's there? Okay. Okay, you guys are still there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have just many windows. Okay, I do not see Garfield, so we'll go ahead and take a look at the minutes. Jeremy, Malcolm, did you guys get them or do you want me to share them?
You gotta do the roll.
Oh, okay, sorry. Roll call. Thank you. Malcolm.
Here.
Jeremy.
Here.
And Lee is here and Garfield is not present, but we're gonna keep an eye and see if he comes and joins us. Thank you for that reminder. So we'll take a look at the approval of the minutes from November 4th.
Move to approve.
Yeah, I had a couple, there was one time you said Ms. Lee. I had a couple.
I'll second that for the point of discussion.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you have anything?
What do you got? Wait.
Yeah, so let's see.
So I didn't change Lee to Ms. Davis.
Yeah, it was just under new business. Let's see. Under new business, under A, it just said Ms. Davis introduced the updated housing plan worksheet. Plan has two ends there.
Yeah.
And asked Mr. Fick to present his marked up copy and explain her suggestion. So I changed that. And then coming down to, again, under new business.
No, it was his suggestions.
Yeah, exactly. His, yes,
Okay.
Thank you. And then coming down to number 4, I changed it to Miss Davis. I think it said Miss Lee.
Miss Lee. Oh, it does say Miss Lee.
I'll go with it,
Miss
And
Lee.
in that same sentence, it
Miss
says
Lee.
I got it.
to fix an abandoned house in Pittsfield. It's actually Beckett that we did the.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I think we
Cool.
were talking about that there was something in Pittsfield, but it wasn't in Beckett that we did. We also did two in Lenox, but in this case, it was Beckett.
So that was the same receivership program?
Yes. Yeah. So
Wow, okay.
yeah. So constructed 2 in Beckett. Oh, actually, I did one in Peckett, and then we were just asked to do another one. And there's two in Lenox that we facilitated. It was actually done through the town, but we helped them set that up.
Cool.
But the one in Beckett was Construct. So those are the only notes I had. But thank you very much. Do I have a motion to? approve the
I had one thing under new business. What was it? D. Under Mr. Reed requested discussion about the Mehawi block.
Right.
When I talked about new housing, it was, I mean, I realized that it's not new housing, although he's increasing the number of housing units. It was, what I was praising is taking, I guess, renovating old units to make quote unquote new units.
Okay. That's probably what you said.
Meaning, so
Yep.
yeah, so more like to like revitalize aging housing stock to new housing is what I meant by the new housing. And then the other part is I don't think I was, what I think I was trying to say, because he is asking the town for subsidies to create the affordable housing. I think I was getting the impression, and this is definitely on me and not him, that maybe he will try to find the funds somewhere else if he doesn't get town funds. And I don't know that to be the case at all. But what I was speaking to is he seems to be committed to creating affordable housing.
Right, but he didn't ask for any affordable housing CPA funds.
Oh,
He
he
did.
did.
He did.
He
Oh, I thought
definitely
it
did.
was,
Yeah, he's looking for both
historic.
historic and affordable housing.
Yeah, in the Mehawi block, it's both. And then and then in the old BCC property, it's now he previously asked for historical, and now he's currently asking for affordable housing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just drop that then without the subsidy. So Jeremy, then it would read now that Mr. Eager praised Mr. Rush for revitalizing housing stock in the town and being willing to make some of them affordable.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Well, yeah, I mean, willing, he's
What you said.
he's getting money for it, so it's not like he's.
Yeah, that's what you said, Jeremy, and I had
Yeah.
it wrong, so.
yeah. Well, we don't know if he's getting money. He's asking for money.
It's
But
not
I
like
don't-
he's giving it to us without anything. I guess that's my point.
Well,
But that's not the point here. The point here is
Yeah.
that what you said last meeting, and you
Absolutely.
corrected it, so.
Yeah, perfect. All righty, so do I hear a motion to approve with the amendments?
Yeah, I'll revise my motion to include the amended changes.
I'll second that.
Jeremy, you agree with that? Okay.
Okay, roll call. Malcolm,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
and myself as I. All righty, so back to the housing worksheet. So we all kind of had a couple takeaways last meeting to go and do some research on our own. I know that Malcolm did some and I did some as well, which we can both share what we found. And what I'm mindful of is, getting something that can be activated for town meeting, that, once we go through all these and we have discussions, is there anything viable that we can actually put forward to the planning board or to the select board and say, we would like to get this on the warrant, either as a zoning update or, what our recommendations are. So there is a bit of time pressure in terms of going through this and, really narrowing the focus into the ones that we could accomplish. It doesn't mean the other ones shouldn't be looked at, but in terms of the priorities for this year, what is actually realistic for us to push through, because obviously something needs to be done with housing, and it's always, good to start with the low hanging fruit and see, what is actually viable. And as a subcommittee, what are we comfortable with presenting and recommending? So with that, Malcolm, I know that you did some work, so if you want to introduce your research, and then I have something that I could probably add to that, but if you want to go ahead and talk about what you found.
Okay, well, I did, I looked at two things. One was the matchmaking program. And let me bring up my, basically, let me find my documents.
I can let you share if you want to share it as well.
Yeah, then I can just go down. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, that would be good.
All right, let's see. Oh, yeah, I have to make you a co-host, I think.
All right.
Okay, you are a co-host.
Okay, let's see if I can. Okay, so I just put together some outlines here, and I think this is probably the level that we need as far as getting things started, because we're not actually going to do these projects, but we're going to evaluate them and see if somebody wants to pick up and run with them.
Mhm.
And the matchmaking program, the idea, I think, was, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just I'm fleshing things out from, you know, brief statements that are in the spreadsheet. But the idea here was to create some program that would match tenants with landlords. And the idea would be that it might increase housing opportunities if potential landlords had an easy way to find tenants and could feel some level of safety, or if this program would pre-screen tenants. And I don't know whether that means things like background checks or credit checks or whatever, but whatever that means, that might give some feeling for someone who's contemplating renting their house out and needs to feel safe. A program that exists now is a home sharing program sponsored by New York Foundations for Senior Citizens that seems to work pretty well in that regard, in the sense that it gives seniors comfort in renting a room out in their house, because the people that are applying are pre-screened by this program.
Mhm.
Who would run such a service? You know, I was just dreaming here, maybe the town, maybe a realtor wants to run with it, maybe a housing nonprofit, if there was funding to fund the program, would run with it. Maybe there's some other third party somewhere that I didn't find that was doing this on a commercial basis.
Mhm.
I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's obviously the costs include any software that needs to be done, any design and development of the program, and any operation costs going forward. What must happen? I think this is important for each of our initiatives. What must happen in order to make it a reality? We need some buy-in from unknown owner, administrator, whoever would run with this. We need buy-in from current and potential landlords. I mean, that's important for the program, and it would be important, I think, in the preliminary, to do some market research to make sure this program would actually, rather than investing in a program that there's no little interest in, there has to be some interest in either current or potential landlords. This could be a convenience for tenants and landlords, but it also could increase housing if homeowners who are considering renting rooms or apartments feel that they can do this with more convenience or safety. Expected benefits could be proven if someone did some market research prior to actually launching the program. That's what I came up with.
Great.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's awesome. So you mentioned the New York State program, and that was something that I found. I have the brochure. If it's helpful, I can put it up. And I'm not sure if this is the one that you saw, but let me share that. And actually, you know, when I added this option onto the sheet, I didn't kind of realize that there was already something in place, which is great. So that makes makes our life.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, the home sharing program, because I
Yeah.
didn't really get a lot of insight into how it's constructed or what the, how it's administered, but
Yeah, so this is what I found,
Mhm.
and this is before is this what you were talking about?
yes.
Yeah,
So
perfect.
it's really a nonprofit. It's not part of the state.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. So, I mean, it sounds great. It obviously take resources. It's probably something that is outside the town purview, just because, the staff time and everything, but it sounds wonderful. And, I guess when I first thought of the idea, I was thinking, okay, the town could facilitate some kind of matchmaking and we would have the portal. Obviously this would take time and resources, but in my head, I was thinking, okay, the town would have this portal so that people would feel comfortable knowing the town has vetted, has gone through these steps. That's not realistic because the town has a lot more other things to do with, but, to have some entity that people felt comfortable driving it. And in this case, it looks like it's a nonprofit and that's what people do. So, this is great to have the fact that it's already in place and, there's a little bit of history. But it seems like it's not that something that the town could, pick up and run with at this point.
No, but when we flesh these things out, we may be able to invite nonprofits in to review not just this, but we have other things also that
Exactly.
probably
Yeah.
fall in their lap better than ours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
And this might be something, that Polly, the senior center, might want to explore if they haven't, they might have already. But just to bring this to attention that, this is an option and,
Cool.
I think this would be great. So super. Jeremy, did you have any thoughts well, actually, Vivian, I'm going to let Vivian talk one sec if I can find my Zoom. All right, I'm going to, you guys can keep talking while I'm trying to figure out this. I'm trying to find my Zoom. I don't know why I have so many screens on. One sec. Vivian, I'm going to let you talk in a sec once I find my little guy.
I mean, I do
Yeah, go ahead.
have some thoughts on it.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's a good idea. But again, I mean, I agree that it doesn't seem something that the town could do or should do. And so it would just be, if an organization would appear to do this, or we could, I don't know if we can entice these guys to, but the concern I have with things like this is, like, does it, like, is it going to reach all of the kinds of people we would like to reach? So would everyone feel comfortable in using this service, right? Like both sides, homeowners and also potential tenants. And just, I mean, just viewing it from that kind of lens that we look through things now, like something like this might seem very logical and comfortable and normal to us, but are there members of our community that are going to have some kind of natural barriers to engaging something like this? And so
Jeremy, that's why I think that whoever is willing to run with this is going to have to do some market research first to find out whether it's feasible or not.
Yeah.
And
I definitely agree with that too. I mean, if it was something that the town would engage in, it's like, like what kind of, like, what are we talking about too, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think any organization is going to look at it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Vivian, you can talk I think I unmuted you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh, great. Well, just to briefly as background, when I was advocating for the senior tax deferral earlier this year, actually, and also last year, I was invited to participate in a panel with Chris Rembold and Jane Ralph from Construct about affordable housing, and it was conducted by the Strategic Sustainability and Livability Committee, which is concerned about affordable housing. And for that gathering, I did some initial research, and I summarized some of it. One of the points that I did raise had to do with shared housing, which especially relevant to seniors, where either a single member or a couple no longer have children in the house, and they have spare rooms or space. So I looked into that, and there actually is a website called Sharing Housing, and there's a guidebook and other resources there, which I didn't look into, but I'd be glad to do that for your next meeting. That website tries to empower individuals who don't necessarily have any kind of institutional resources or middle person or middle ground in which to find either to find a place to rent on one hand, or on the point of view of homeowners to rent out part of their homes. But I was thinking about in terms of the town, and I agree with everyone that this does not seem like a function that the town could take on. But the town does give grants, and it could give a grant to an appropriate nonprofit community service organization that could, in order to establish such a system, and allow that agency perhaps to charge a reasonable fee for access to this. I mean, obviously we're dealing with people with limited income, but if it becomes popular, small fees could help subsidize the program, and maybe also volunteers might be able to be involved, although it would need to involve security checks. And that probably should not be left to volunteers. Two organizations, actually 3 organizations came to my mind, and those are Construct, Elder Services, and BCAC. I have no idea. I have not reached out to any of them to even test the waters, but I don't think that because the town wouldn't do it itself, the town couldn't jumpstart this program with a grant, just like the town has given many grants for other things. And now there's discussion of the town giving funding to a commercial developer, which we're talking about tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, where something like this would probably be much more modest to finance.
Okay.
But I think it should be, there should be some type of coordination by a human being at a nonprofit organization, and then they could use the software rather than necessarily expecting people to navigate it on their own.
Okay, thanks. Vivian, I'm going to cut you off here just because I know we have a lot to go through, but
sorry.
you made wonderful points. And, if you want to do any of the research, that would be really, really helpful.
Sure.
At this point, we're trying to focus on things that, the town can do right now, but I think that would be really helpful if you want to go and come back or even send it.
Well, if I could find a nonprofit that's interested in that and could come up with an estimate of what the grant would be to jump started, then that could go on the proposal for the town budget for town meeting.
Yeah. So if you want to run with that, that would be wonderful.
Okay. I have a couple of other suggestions on other topics, but why don't you go ahead, and I'll raise my hand if it fits in with the discussion, or maybe you'll cover it already without my saying anything.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay. So that's great.
Can I just make one comment to Vivian? So Vivian, remember the request for the private developer for funds for affordable housing is coming directly from TPA funds. And so it's a different pot than I think this funding source would come from. I'm not quite sure how to fit this funding for this into CPA unless it was specifically going to be income restricted solely. And I don't know if you would want to do something like this and restrict it to income, because I think like a service like this would be better if it was more broad.
Okay. Yeah.
So not that the town can't create a grant for something like this. I just don't see it necessarily coming from CPA funds.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to go into this before we even get to the point that it's a viable project to put money towards, but it's obviously very worthy. And it's a worthy project. It's just the resources of someone really exploring this and having a proposal that can be brought to the town for funding. So that's great. So Malcolm, did you have anything else on your list that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, just a second. Let me catch up on notes here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Vivian will follow up. Okay, got it. I did begin some thoughts on the ADU programs, kind of in the same frame. Let me see if I can. I don't know if I shared the last one. But let me see if I can share this
You want me to? You want to share your screen? Oh,
Yeah.
you're.
one. Okay, is that shared?
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
Okay, this has to do with the ADU programs, and item 18 actually deals with two things. One is education and the other is incentives. And the bottom line of this is that this program, a program of developing, educational awareness for ADUs, and also a program for perhaps providing incentives for ADUs, is probably a low risk item in terms of the cost, because most of the cost has to do with providing grants for ADUs, and if nobody buys into it, it's not going to happen. If people do buy into it, it does. There are programs that exist in California and in California cities. I've found some ADU programs outside of California, like in Loudoun County, Virginia, but they don't include incentives, and it's kind of convoluted, actually. I think it has to be pretty simple to work. The idea would be that we would have a program of education and awareness of the benefits of ADUs, to make people aware of ways that they could either increase their property values and or get income by creating another dwelling unit in their property. By the way, ADUs can also be in their house too. I mean, it doesn't have to be a separate structure. And then the other thing would be perhaps an incentive program. The state of California has, they have a big incentive, $40,000 grants. There are cities like Milpitas, California, that has $4,000 grants for people who are going to develop ADUs. In both cases, the homeowners have to be low to moderate income. I'm not sure if the ADU rentals have to be low to moderate income, but that obviously is going to require more research. It just seems like the kind of thing that can be done. If the town is going to do it, it probably is going to have to be the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that does this kind of thing, because I think that kind of falls within their ability to provide grants for this kind of thing, and also to develop programs. Also, this is a case where tax abatements might be useful if we can't provide cash grants. So just in short, I mean, I do think this would be a kind of a low risk program, in the sense that there are some upfront costs in the education and putting the program together, but actually the funding, the grant funding, would only trigger if the program's successful.
So are you saying, like, if we had a portal, and I have an example to show you as well, but are you saying to have, something set up, such as like a portal on our website that someone can go to that's interested in, and then it has all the information there and, links to funding sources or, tiny homes or so kind
Well,
of information?
I think that's part of it, but I think the education awareness program has to be proactive too.
Okay.
With public relations, things in the newspapers, things on the radio, local radio station, just to get the word out that there are these things, that people, homeowners can use to increase the value or the income from their homes.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I guess the feedback that I've heard is, that it's just really hard to get loans for ADUs unless you have extra equity in your house.
Mhm.
That's a big stumbling block, is that people just don't have the extra 100 grand or 200 grand or whatever it costs to do that. And when they try to get funding, it just is prohibitive.
Right.
And if that's the case, right away, we want people to know that, like, what's the reality of it? It's not just, and I do know that Amy at the Tiny Homes Association, she's working really hard I think she's working with the CDC possibly to bring more information about the tiny homes program there. But, I guess the feedback is what I've heard, and I'm not trying to discount it because I think it's a wonderful program, is, it's hard to find money and people are hesitant about being landlords.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand that, but I think those are, if somebody wants to run in this program, that's the kind of thing they're going to have to run.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't think that's problem. That's not for us to resolve this. It's really just to say,
Yeah.
okay, this,
Yeah.
and actually that's a,
Here, let me, if you don't mind, I'm gonna share this because this might be something that you've probably looked at.
Is this with ADUs too? Oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
this is with Burlington, yeah. So they have this whole it's under Home Share Vermont, so I'm not sure. I guess this is another organization. But this is just information, an example of what the information might look like on a website. So it says, what is an ADU? It says the benefits. And what I did find is it has, then it has, free architectural design that you can download, which was interesting. I did that. So it gives you kind of an example of a 750 square foot one, as a efficiency versus a 1-bedroom versus 2-bedroom. And this is completely different, but this is just to give you an idea of, something we might be able to say, okay, this is information, and people could kind of go there. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I think this should be valuable, but, it's got to be part of a whole
Yeah.
campaign, I think. Can't just create a website out there and expect people to gravitate to it. They have to know about it.
Yeah. So I guess it comes down to resources and staff time, and who's gonna, how much staff time will involve, and, weighing the pros and cons of that.
So what's
But
Construct doing?
It's not Construct, it's the CDC. So I know
Oh,
that the CDC is looking into tiny homes. I don't want to speak for them because I don't work for them, but I have heard that they had discussions with Amy, and they possibly might be looking for some land, or they have an interest in it. So
do they have a tiny house development?
I don't know. I just know that they've explored. I think there's a tiny home manufacturer in North Adams, or Adams, I believe.
Yep.
I believe that they've had discussions with them and just, taking a look. I know that Amy came to talk to them, and I have in my notes that we were going to invite Amy to one of our meetings and maybe give us a little talk. And I've talked to Amy and myself, just out of curiosity, about her program. So there's a lot of pieces, and yeah, so.
So when I have some thoughts about this, but I also have some general thoughts and going through this process, and looking at the two things that I had assigned myself. But I guess with this item specifically, I mean, you know, with the funding piece until, and I don't know like where the movement that is with local banks at this point for funding or for, I'm sorry, loans, home equity loans for funding affordable or for ADUs, excuse me. But I mean, it's not cheap, but one way you could do it is, again, the Affordable Housing Trust, if they were really interested in this sort of thing and they were funded to do this sort of thing, is they could offer, they could do loans for affordable, or excuse me, for ADUs, maybe with a restriction and a certain amount of it forgiven or whatever, right? And so that's one way that you can go around that. It's not a cheap way, but it could be a way to get something like that going. Also, this, and then this is a general thing as well. And looking at a lot of these things and talking about housing, and this has come up before, but, you know, I mean, Great Barrington may need to really start looking at some type of staff position, like staff position that we don't currently have, but someone on staff that specifically deals with housing and like creation of housing, like a person that the public or developers can go to, and their thing is all about just creating housing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the other thing, like what was neat about, I'm sorry, wait, but what was neat about that site that you showed is like the sample plans. And I know that was an idea around ADUs that came up. If there was like, if town had like sample plans and that people could use, that it might be another way to help spur the creation of ADUs.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, it all, you know, seems all to come down to money, you know?
Yeah.
And so the two things that I research are money oriented. So if you guys want to let me mention that, because I'm trying to think of ways that we can. So I had looked at the local option real estate transfer fee, and that was number 20 on our worksheet. And I'll share my screen just so you guys can see where we are.
Cool.
Okay. All righty. You guys can see this, right? Okay, so it's number 20, and it was the real estate transfer fee. And so I've done some more research into this. And what I found is that CHAPA, which is it promotes housing policy throughout the Massachusetts, and they have endorsed this. And what it is it's a transfer that municipalities could opt into a transfer fee that supports affordable housing. And I'll just read a little bit about it. It says and this is the reason why I bring this up is it's a two-step process. It's a town meeting vote, and then it's legislation. So it's two steps. And what CHAPA is saying in this is that they're trying to bring legislation through that would eliminate the second step, that a municipality could simply pass it as a local option and then it would go forward. So what I was looking at is it's the local option transfer tax or real estate transfer fee. And currently each town has to first approve the transfer fee locally, file a home rule. This is where I am right here. File a home rule petition in state legislature, and can adopt it only if the legislature approves it and it's signed by the governor. Historically, they have stalled. So what this is, it's a local option transfer fee paid by the buyers. And what Boston did, and this is where I got the idea, was Boston anything that was sold over the median price of a single family unit, it triggered this real estate transfer fee. So what Chapa was saying is that if the amount of the transfer fee for the statewide transfer fee is that the single family unit median price is higher statewide than countywide, we could use the countywide price. So in this case, the countywide median price of a single family unit is $390,000. So in theory, if we were to want to generate some money towards affordable housing, we could, for example, ask for a 0.5% or a 1% transfer fee or, option tax on properties that were sold above the median price of a single family unit. So I've been doing some research into like, what would that look like? And I'm not ready quite yet to bring an example of what that is. I have been talking to Ross, our assessor, to see what, example of how much that would generate. But the idea is that this would come in, through buyers, and it would be an additional tax, and it would be coming from only, prices that were over and above the single family home of our countywide median price. So that would generate money, and that money would go towards affordable housing. So fortunately, we have affordable housing trust fund in place. So we actually have a place that this fee would be deposited. So if you look at here, it says the fee will be deposited in the town's affordable housing trust fund. And what's nice with this is that fee could go towards, affordable housing programs. It could be towards, let's say the aging in place program, a senior, some senior housing, low income program. So it's a pot of money that could be generated each year that's dedicated to housing. And I think, one of our stumbling blocks is that we need more money, whether it's to hire a staff person that's focused solely on housing, or if it's to provide grants, or it's to give developers incentives. It really comes down to money. So what I was trying to look for is a way, how are we going to generate this money? And so this is what Boston has done, and Chapa is now endorsing legislation to allow this to be, for us not to have to do this extra step through legislation. And this is something that, in theory, if this, I could bring more information next time to say what that might look like. So what I'm working with Ross now is to see what kind of money we're looking at. If it was, let's say, a 0.5% tax on houses that were sold over 390 last year, what are we looking for? And, what would be an appropriate amount to bring forward as an option. So, but the nice thing is that there's a precedent here. Boston has done it. Other places have done it. I know there are some places on the Cape that have done it, and the range is varied. So it's anywhere from, let's say, 0.1% to 6%. So it's really up to the municipality how much they want to ask for. And let's see. I think that was it. Yeah.
Lee, what happens with this? So like, if the town was to go about this without the legislation, what happens down the road if the legislation comes in place? Does that alter what the town, like if what the town ends up doing doesn't match that? Does this town have to then redo the program to then match the law?
Yeah, I mean, I think what they would do is, for any municipality, that has something in place currently, I'm sure that they would make some kind of adjustment, saying that they would be grandfathered in or what.
Yeah, remember the home rule that would enable this, it takes an act of legislation.
Exactly.
So they're not going to pass legislation that invalidates their previous legislation without taking it into account, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, kind of what's interesting to me and what I'm drawn to is the fact that it's twofold. It's generating income and it's going into the pot of affordable housing. So, we have the Affordable Housing Trust Fund set up. And once we have that money, then, we can work on the ADU program. We can work on the senior housing. We can work on, grants and, home sharing. And, if we're careful with, not tipping the scales too much in terms of what percentage we're adding on to homes that are purchased, that it makes sense. I think it seems like a doable concept, and it seems like it would be something we should look into. But what I'd like to do is come back to this committee and give you a sense of how much we're looking at. So if we were to hypothetically go forward with this, how much would we look at bringing? Is it a few $100,000 every year? Is it, what is it? And does that seem fair? And then it would obviously be a lot of community outreach and working through this to see if we want to bring it to town meeting as a warrant article. So what are your guys' thoughts?
I think the Affordable Housing Trust is crippled because they don't have any staff.
Yeah.
And if this provided funds so that, as Jeremy pointed out, a housing expert for the town, that would be a great step in the right direction.
Yeah.
In allowing the Affordable Housing Trust to take on some of these other things that we're looking at as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. We need more money, and I think this is a a doable piece of legislation, or I shouldn't say legislation, but I think this is a way to really bring that money to affordable housing. So, so what I can do is next meeting, I'll work with Ross and do a hypothetical scenario of, okay, if we pass, let's say a 0.5% transfer fee, what would we be looking at bringing into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, per year? And that will give us a sense of, is this doable? Is this too much? Is this too little? So yeah, so that's what I was gonna.
So Lee, what you've seen with where this kicks in, has the only options been like a statewide mean or like a county or some sort of local one? Are those can you opt for the state out, because I mean, where I would really worry about this is on, is this gonna make it more difficult for individuals to, buy an affordable home? Because I also wonder, I mean, I would love to see people that are looking at to buy an affordable home, that if they could buy a duplex, so they had some income to help, to help them pay for that home. And are they gonna be the ones ending up paying the surcharge too, or this extra tax or fee?
Yeah, well,
Sorry.
the beauty with this is that it's targeting homes that are above the median price. So it's not on the lower end, and in the end, it does help.
Yeah. So
I mean,
that was my point, because the 390 is seems like it might be low for Great Barrington. That's what I was concerned with.
Yeah, and we could set that. I mean, we could set that. We can make that the state median, which is, more around the 590 mark. I think there's leeway. So I just kind of use that as a mark, but no, I mean, we're not tied to that. And I think there's a lot of latitude right there that we could work with. So it was just an example of, okay, what's the benchmark? Is it the countywide median? Is it the statewide? So I don't think we're really attached to anything. And what this committee do is really find that sweet spot, I believe.
One of the things I'm interested, I mean, I totally agree that funding is and that was one of the things that I kept encountering. Well, there was two things. But one of them was like, how do you fund all of this? Like, if you're really trying to create housing, it comes down to money.
Yeah.
And one of the other things I'm interested in is like, you know, all of these kinds of things, it's like, how much skin in the game does Great Barrington actually have? And so when we add all of these things, to me, it's like not much, you know? And so I'm wondering, without employing things like, you know, home rule, is there funding sources that we should be asking from the town? Like funding sources, should we be already asking for some amount of that to be going into the trust?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's like, we have to realize that if we ask for money, that's coming out of, you know, residents' pockets.
No,
So,
and then that's what I mean by skin in the game, right? And so it's very easy to have all of these sources that, you know, like we don't directly feel, but I wonder, and I wonder if we need to have that skin in the game, meaning it needs to be a line item on our yearly budget.
Hey, Lee, Garfield's in the audience.
oh, he is? Oh, good.
Oh.
Okay, hold on. Let me stop my share. Do you still have the power? Hold on.
Yeah.
You have to elevate Garfield to a panelist.
Okay, I have to find him.
I got it.
I'm usually not this basic. Sorry.
Garfield, you should be able to, there you are.
Yay. Asked to unmute. Oh wait, did you make him a panelist?
Mhm.
Okay, Garfield, can you talk? Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I only have too little to say. You might have got my message earlier. That's why I wasn't here.
Oh, I didn't, sorry. You're here now.
I am,
Yay.
but I'm only here for a moment. Are we public right at the moment?
We
Mhm.
are. Yeah,
We are.
we have lots of people watching us. Now we only have 3, but
Well, I have some personal issues that are
okay.
pretty scary to me. That's why I haven't been here. If you listen to your message, Lee,
Oh,
you'll
okay.
hear what my concerns are.
Okay.
So I'm not going to be on here very long. I had some information that I was working on that actually Vivian Orlowski helped me tremendously with. She's
Okay.
done most of the footwork. I sent it over to you. I forwarded it to you. We can have it tonight. I just wanted to say one other thing, because everyone's talking about money, and it's true. And a couple of things. One is I have to look into it, but I know there's somewhere people, and I think Lee alluded to it, that there is a place that does affordable housing. And the other thing, as far as aging in place, everything is, you know, does cost money. And my thought is, it's too bad we don't have it. I don't know if we do, but there's a lot of the people that have these homes that have been there for a long time that need repairs. This would be a nice program if we had our program for I'm sorry, I'm really having a hard time right now. For our program that incentivize people and to stay in their home, but also if we could have kids, or the vocational program could be people that could do some of the repairs, that would definitely lessen the cost of everything, because if you're going to hire someone outside, it's going to be quite a bit of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
With that, I don't know if we have a program like that. There might be something. I know they have some programs in school right now. I don't know if they have a carpentry.
Yeah, well, we have a pathway to the trades, which now Green Agers has taken over, but that was a partnership with a few, Railroad Street Youth Project, Construct, Green Agers. So that is a vocational program.
Be easily maybe employed,
Mhm.
possibly, to do the work, because I'm sure there are a lot of people that need things repaired if they've certainly been at home for a long time. That's going to
Absolutely.
be probably half of the things that's going to help them stay there, is funding those repairs.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's great. So if, you know, if Garfield, if you don't want to stay on, I totally absolutely understand. I haven't listened to your message, but, or you can just, you know, hang tight and whatever is suitable to you. So, I had one more item that I wanted to talk about. So that's kind of wraps up that. What I can do is I can come back to the subcommittee next time and give you a sense of what that might look like, and do a couple different plays around the countywide median price versus Great Barrington versus statewide, and kind of run a couple scenarios around and give you a sense of how much money this might generate. And then in theory, if we could find like a sweet spot that we feel comfortable recommending, then we could go forward. But this actually, this really appeals to me because it generates money and we have a precedent in place. So is that okay with you guys?
Yep.
Okay. So the other one that I had looked into, which I'm really excited about, is actually, it's a new one. So it's not even on here. So it's an incentive, and I'm gonna, this is something that the town of Provincetown is doing. And what it is, it's an affordable housing property tax exemption for owners of affordable year-round rental housing. So what this is, it's a property tax exemption. And I'm gonna share my screen so you can see what I'm reading off of. But this is exciting in that, again, we have a precedent, and we have something to go by. So let me share my screen. So this is going to be new. This is not on the sheet now, but I was going to add it onto it. And, there's a lot of talk about residential exemptions and, trying to make it easier for people to afford to live in their homes. What was interesting about this is that this is something that is happening in a few municipalities, and the town of Provincetown is the one that I've been working with in terms of getting some information. And so what this is I'm just going to go to my cheat notes. It's a tax exemption for property owners who offer affordable year-round rental housing. The goal is to increase long-term rental housing stock by incentivizing property owners to offer affordable long-term rentals rather than short-term rentals or market rate, for instance. The benefit of the program is that property owners who do provide affordable housing are exempt from paying property tax on that portion of their property that is being rented at or below affordable rates to income eligible households. So for example, if you had like a 2,000 square foot house and 1,000 feet of that house is rented to low income or to income eligible households, you would not have to pay property tax on that percentage of your house. So it's incentivizing property owners who have homes to affordably rent to people. So it's only for year-round rental properties, and a 12-month lease must be in place. It only pertains to low-income households. So renters' household incomes may not exceed 80% of the median household income. So again, we're targeting people that need housing in our community. No deed restrictions are needed. So this is granted by the Board of Assessors on a year basis. If a property qualifies for that year, then exemption is granted. So each year you would have to reapply, which is nice because, 1 year you might not need to rent it and the next year you might. These rents assume that the landlord pays all utilities. If they don't pay all utilities, then there's an allowance that it would be deducted. It's a completely standalone exemption. It has nothing to do with the residential exemption, which the assessor in Provincetown recommended staying away from. This is a two-step process similar to the other option or the other initiative that I just discussed. So it would need to go to town meeting and then it would need to get approved in the state legislature. So it's a two-step process. None of this exemption is reimbursed by the state, so there will be some lost revenue, but then we would balance it out of what we're gaining in return. So then I did some research into what is 80% of the area median income in Great Barrington. So right now, and this could be a little bit off, but from what I found is For instance, if you had a studio, you would need to keep in within that 1,100 mark, for instance. Or if it's a 1 bedroom, it would have to be, at or below this 1,200 mark. Background, Provincetown voters did approve this, and it is in place right now. And then they have so I have a lot of information about this. So they gave you kind of an example. So they said, a particular dwelling is a duplex. The owner lives in one unit and rents the other unit. Without this affordable housing exemption, the properties would have a tax burden. So they kind of did a whole breakdown of what this might look like. So again, what's nice about this is that, sorry, I'm just going to find it. What's nice about this is that there's a precedent. It's been approved in a different municipality. We have a dialogue going right now with the Board of Assessors, so I'm getting some good information from them. It, encourages people to long-term rent to residents rather than, get the highest and best money or short-term rent. And it provides housing, integrated housing within our communities. So, it's not just people being, having low-income housing in a development. It's actually integrating it in our communities, in our neighborhoods. And it's doing that through incentivizing owners of property. So this is something that I'm excited about. And I don't know if anyone has any questions or thoughts. I would love to hear it.
Well, it sounds like this and the last one that need a home rule petition, the select board really needs to come up with something for the town meeting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's what I was kind of bringing it up sooner than later, because if we can do our homework in this subcommittee and I could present something on behalf of the housing subcommittee and say, okay, this is our recommendation, we could start getting that in the works so that we have something to put on the warrant. That would be a hope, because it would be a couple year process, or if in theory we're able to pass something at town meeting, then if we're lucky, the following year the legislation would go through and we could start working with this.
Okay.
Jeremy, did you have any thoughts, or Garfield, did you have any thoughts?
Not at the moment, thank you.
Okay.
No, I think this would be a good thing, a good central topic for the next meeting.
Okay, super.
Then flesh out in detail and see what number of dollars we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I will continue to get some more research and I'll bring it to the subcommittee next time. But yeah, I mean, looking at our schedule for the select board, which we just went over last night, and if we're still meeting once a month, we really want to kind of get this talked about by February, I would think, at the latest. Have some kind of presentation that before we go into budget season, we have this.
Yeah. It's not going to impact this year's budget, but
yeah, it won't go in terms of the budget, but just to kind of have it for the warrant. I guess I'm talking more for the warrant, rather than the budget.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is going to be number 20.
So yeah, so let me, I'm going to share my little screen. One sec. If I can get this. Okay. Yeah, so this will be number 23. 23. Oh yeah, 24. Sorry, you're right. This will be 24. And I'll add it to let's see.
So
And I'll fill in this thing afterwards, but
Sure, yeah, no problem.
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, this one's an interesting one. And I'm just wow. Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of this. I mean, it's a weird kind of calculation that land or that homeowners would be doing. because of if they're going to consider, you know, the tax abatement versus like if the calculation is just simply monetary, between that and what they would be able to rent their unit for.
Right, right. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, homeowners are gonna have to take that into consideration, you know, is
Yeah.
is it
And-
economically, which is
and it-
economically most worthwhile,
Yeah.
and does that matter?
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of funny because I was doing, because I'm going to be at a point that I'm going to need some extra funds. And I have a basement and, you know, this is just kind of an example. When I'm thinking about, you know, the money that it would cost for me to put a bathroom down there, I don't have that. But if I knew that I was going to get some kind of exemption on that, and knowing that that would, you know, get paid, that I could, you know, save on my property tax, maybe that few $1,000s, it would be worth it. So that, you know, that's some of the thoughts that, and in the long run, I would be helping the community and I would be providing housing for someone that needed it. So,
Yeah.
you know, it was kind of a good, a good scenario for me to work in my own head that, hey, you know, that makes it, you know, more palatable to do that. So, and the great thing is we're helping people. So not only am I getting a tax break in theory, but I'm helping, you know, residents. So,
And I wonder if one of the big messaging things around all of this is should be about, you know, how, like, what can you as a homeowner do? Because I think like all of this stuff is, it's like an extra layer of either work or maybe thought that you may not have if you're just straight renting out a unit at market rate. And so I think one of the things that's going to be important along the lines is changing like overall. I mean, I know lots of people are already there, but I mean, overall getting this feeling like what can we do as homeowners to, you know, address to help to start addressing the problem that we have with housing.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, and, you know, if we were going to bring this to the select board, and ultimately to the residents, you know, we could make the calculation saying, okay, well, maybe we're losing, you know, an extra $1,000 off this property and property tax, but we are creating an affordable housing unit and we don't have to pay a developer $300,000, you know?
But I hate to tell you, it's going to be big numbers, right? Because I think it's
I know,
going to be big
multiply.
numbers. And so there's actually a document that Chris shared with the planning board that I wanted to share with. I don't know if you already have it, but with you and Garfield and with the I mean, the public can get it on the other end from the planning board as well. But and it was an exercise that Chris did with like area mean income, rental prices, and then like the gaps in between like market rate and what those units would go for at different levels of area mean income.
Okay.
It's fascinating because you can use that. And so this goes into like the things that that I was going over. One of the things I came upon is like, how do you like, how are you thinking about funding when you're thinking about creation of affordable units? You know, are you thinking about it, the difference between like, and so this is like one of the exercises that Chris did. Like, one way to think about it is the difference between what those units would go for at market rate and what they would go for at different levels of affordability. And then that gives you what the subsidy is.
Yeah.
And so, and you know, I mean, it's an interesting document because then you can start to put it together. Like if the town through the trust or another source was going to start like trying to create affordable units, then, you know, this is kind of an idea of what we might be thinking it might cost.
Yeah.
You know,
Can Lee, can I have the share
Yeah.
and I can bring up this document. that
Yeah, that would be
Jamie-
awesome. Yep.
yeah.
I think you have the power still.
Give me the power. It's an Excel. Where's Excel? There it is.
And so if we were to look at the bottom of this document, the gap per month between affordable and market rent. And so the percentages you'll see are the percentages of area and mean income. And area and mean income is all based solely on household size. It has nothing to do with how many people are earning income in the household. It's just the total income of the household by how many people are in the household. And so that's what you see, the percentage on the left, and then at the top, you'll see how many people.
Could you zoom in
And-
on that, please?
Yeah,
Where's
so if we can zoom in to the last two things, Malcolm, which is the market rate rents, and then the gap, which is at the bottom.
Yep.
The last two things on the bottom.
Can you see that? Is that what you want?
Yeah, and so you'll see on the bottom, so I mean, you can do like 1-bedroom ones. So at 100% of area mean income, the gap is $13 a month, right? Between a market rate rental of what is it? Of
That's here.
$16.25, and what 30% of 100% of area mean income would be.
Okay.
So that's the calculation that he's doing now. And so 100% of area mean income, that just means the middle. So like 50% of the population falls below that, and 50% of the population falls above that.
Mhm.
And in general, what we mean by affordable housing is 80% and below.
Mhm.
Where the big fall off is, you're going to get a fall off at a certain point at like if you're, this is all rentals, but if you're ever going to talk about home ownership, like you can't go down to 30% and think of home ownership at that level, because you end up not being able to qualify for a loan unless there's some kind of huge subsidy.
Mhm.
But I mean, I find this thing really fascinating. I mean, the other part that that I was interested in doing is, you know, so what does this really mean? And it's kind of off topic, but what does these things mean, like in terms of hourly rate? And so the only one where it's sort of one-to-one is a one person, right? Because when you have a one person household, only one person is going to be making the money. And so at 100% of area mean income, what does that work out to? If someone's working 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, it works out to about $35.50 an hour. That's 100% of area mean income. So it just gives you a little, you know, of course it falls off when you have, like, let's say if you have a 5-person household, you know, it changes a lot. But because, you know, you would hope at least you have a 2-earner household at that. But, you know, I mean, it's,
Okay. Well, where do we go from this, Jeremy? I can send this out to everybody.
Yeah, if you can send it
yeah,
out.
I mean, I think it's good for people to have. I mean, one of the things that I came to when I was looking at the two that I tasked myself with, and then also in speaking with Chris about these. So one of the things that I was tasked with was generating a list of, so this is the first one, right? The AG's abandoning housing receivership. And then also we were looking at the targeting blighted properties, that sort of thing. So when I talked to Chris about this, this is an item that is already happening. So when all of these properties become available, before that point, town staff has looked at these properties for their viability for housing, their viability for open space, or like some other kind of conservation. And so I don't know if this is really an action item necessarily for us, because it seems like this has already been in process for some time.
Yeah, I agree.
And and then the second one, and then also to in terms of the list, like some of these properties are known, some of them are less so, and I don't know. It's somewhat, it became like somewhat of a sensitive subject for me. Not necessarily personally, but worrying about like how homeowners might feel if we started to put their, like some of these properties are long, you know, and so they're fine. But some of the things we might be considering might be, you know, homes that people own and they're just, you know, they're having trouble figuring out what to deal with them. And so I was having a little trouble with, like, do we want to start calling these out as potential potential properties that the town might be interested in at some point. And this is sort of off topic, but maybe not. I was, and this just goes to one of the things that Garfield had mentioned, that kind of aging in place. Like these properties, sometimes like there could be some overlap between the two. And, you know, I would be really, just from like a kind of kindness thing, like I would be really interested in the kind of thing that Garfield was talking about. Like, you know, is there a way for the town to work? And I know the town has tried to do this, but is there a way for the town to kind of work with these, like, is there some kind of program where we can really work with homeowners to really keep their homes? Because I know the receivership thing, it seems like, you know, like some other entity would have to take control of the property, not the original homeowner. And so I'm wondering about maybe other programs that we could pursue. I know we've had some things with rehabilitation money that has been available in the past. But anyways, so this, I don't know, I had a little bit of trouble with that, but not so much because the town is already doing these things, and the things that I was worrying about, the town's not really doing, you know, I mean, we're not really doing the negative stuff that I was worrying that maybe could happen from that. With the other item, which was down the list, is it number 10?
Want me to share my screen so we're looking at the?
Yeah, so it was the deed restriction purchase program to incentivize homeowners. Now, this to me really is like two things. One, this can sort of happen without the town kind of directly.
What number is it?
Number 10.
Oh.
So basically this item is like
Is it-
some entity or well, funds to
Is this the aging in place? Is this the
no,
right
no,
one?
no, no. Is it number 10? It's number 10 on mine. It's
Funds
deed
to the
restriction
Oh,
purchase
sorry,
program to
yeah,
incentivize
yeah.
homeowners to deed
Uh,
restrict their property.
Oh, yeah.
Basically,
Sorry.
it's
Yep, you got it.
it's this is like one of the quick ways you can create affordable housing. So basically it's buying a unit from a landlord, and what you're buying is you're buying the restriction. So now that unit that the homeowner has is restricted to a certain income. Again, this is area mean income. So be it 100%, well, depending on the funds, 100%, 80%, 60%, 50%, whatever. So this is twofold. I thought that one, this kind of falls under the purview of the Affordable Housing Trust. They seem like they would make the most sense in terms of a town body to be the funder of this sort of thing. But also that we've seen, like with what, so what Ian's trying to do with his two properties is he's basically applying for CPA funds to do this, right? To create deed restrictions on rental properties at a, you know, to be determined percentage of area mean. If it's CPA funds, it has to be, you know, 100% or less. So, and what this kind of exercise further got me to is like, I'm not sure how many of these items, I wonder if we can go through the exercise and like how many of these things are kind of going on without us taking any action.
Yeah, could we actually get to that? Because that's kind of what I want to see.
Yeah,
What's really
because
viable.
I was kind of
I
feeling
hate to
like,
say this, but we're gonna have to wrap up here soon.
And we're gonna have to
Okay.
wrap up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
So
an hour
let's
and-
kind of wrap it up. But I think, Jeremy, I think you make a good point. You know, there are some things the town's
Yeah.
doing. There are things that we need money for.
yeah,
So really what I'd like to do is, you know, go through this list, not now. But you know, in between this meeting and the next meeting, for us to kind of just zero in on a few things that we can do as
Yeah.
a subcommittee to bring to the select board or to the planning board or to the town meeting, because there are things that staff is already doing. This is just
Yeah.
basically throwing everything in the kitchen sink and saying, okay, these are options, what's being done. But what I really want to focus on what this subcommittee could bring to the select board and ultimately bring to town meeting. So, so let's get close to wrapping this up. Before I open it up to citizen speak, is there any, I know that we already have a meeting scheduled for, here, let me stop.
January 5th.
January 5th, yeah. So that everyone's still fine with that, I'm assuming. And I won't try to schedule anything else besides that January 5th meeting, but is everyone okay with me opening it up to citizen speak, or did anyone else want to say anything? Okay, so I see, let's see. Vivian, yeah. So I'm gonna try to unmute her.
Hi.
Hi. If you can kind of keep it short, Vivian, just because we're really low. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I have another meeting at 7, so I want to make it quick too. One quick question about January 5th. Is that also going to be 5 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay, because I promised to bring more information. I want to know when it is. Secondly, also to discuss further on January 5th, we can improve access to the senior tax deferral, because I understand from the assessor that there's been very few applications and even fewer approvals. So that the program really isn't reaching as many people as it could, because at the beginning, you know, there was extensive discussion with the finance committee and also with the select board. And at that time, they was very cautious to make sure that we didn't get dozens and dozens of applications. Well, now we're on the other end of the spectrum. So the question is, could we gradually open it up to people with slightly higher incomes and also reduce the interest rate slightly so that it would make it accessible for more people? So that's discussed the next time. And also concerning the senior tax deferral, when I did research on this, the Boston College Center for Retirement Research had done in-depth report on the need for the state to do a program of reimbursing towns for any money that was deferred. And in return, when the money was paid back, or not paid by the person when they sold their house, or by the estate when they passed away, in return, the state would get the money. So the town would not have any a fiscal, even accounting aspects to it at all. They would just be the ones to approve the applications. And if this committee is going to recommend certain actions that will require action by our state legislators, by Smitty and Paul Mark, I'd like to suggest that we ask them what they can do about advancing such legislation at the state level, which would not only help our town, but would help other towns who are doing senior tax deferrals, and to make it more broadly available.
Okay.
That's it.
So I
That's it.
guess, thank you, Vivian. If you want to send me that kind of an executive summary, and then I can share that with the rest of the subcommittee members, that would be great. So,
Sure.
you know, the points that you just made, so I can have that summarized, that would be super. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Anyone from the press? Eileen is the press. Anything from the rest of the subcommittee members? Do you guys have any closing thoughts?
Eileen's the Great Barrington Citizen Quest.
Okay, so I will share the housing worksheet after we close, and I'll just make those updates and, kind of update some of the priorities and some of the items that we've talked about and share it with everyone. And I guess really the homework is for us to really hone into what we want to do as a subcommittee and bring forward, knowing that the staff is doing something, knowing that we need money for various programs, but really what can we bring to the select board? That would be kind of the task that I'd be looking forward to.
So this is going through this list, Lee, and then coming
Going
up
through the
with our
list,
ideas
yeah.
of which ones. Okay.
What we can actually do as a subcommittee. So, we all know that the staff needs XYZ, but what can actually we bring forward to the select board?
Are you sending that out to everyone? Is that what you said?
Yeah, and I'll send that out probably tomorrow. Okay, so do I have a motion to close? Oh, well, no, yeah, Vivian's hand. Do I have a motion to close the meeting?
No, it's mine. I'm raising it again.
Vivian, we need to wrap this up.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. How can I get a copy of that document from the planning board that Jeremy is talking about, and I
Yeah.
guess Malcolm put on the screen? How can I get that document?
Vivian, I'll email it to you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
if you can email it to all of us, Jeremy, that would be awesome.
Yeah, yes, please.
Okay,
Already,
so
it's already it's running through the ether as we speak.
Oh, okay. Did you,
Thank you.
I included
Malcolm, did you get
Vivian
it
on
to Vivian? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
okay, so I have a motion to close the meeting. Anyone? Any seconds? Anyone?
Second.
Second. I'll
Okay.
move. Second.
All right, I motion to that closes the meeting, and thank you guys so much. Garfield, I'll talk to you offline.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thanks,
Second.
everyone. All right, bye, thanks.
Thank you.
Get off.